Justin Herbert is going to win the 2025 MVP award. Now, before you click away thinking I've lost my mind, let me tell you why this might be the most realistic, crazy prediction you'll hear all offseason. Okay, before I go further, let me ask you a question. What's your boldest prediction for the Chargers team this season? How many matches can they win this season? Drop your numbers in the comments because I'm curious to see if you're thinking along the same lines as what I'm about to break down. What's up, Chargers fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Chargers. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Bolts. I've been hearing some absolutely wild takes about what this Chargers team could accomplish this year, and honestly, the more I think about them, the less crazy they sound. The biggest one that's got everyone talking? Herbert taking home that MVP trophy. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just another homer take, hear me out on this one. Here's the thing about MVP awards. They're not just about putting up video game numbers. Sure, you need the stats, but there's this unwritten rule that's become pretty clear over the last few years. Since the NFL moved to 17 games, every single MVP winner has had at least 13 wins. That's the baseline. It doesn't matter if you throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. If your team only wins 10 games, you're not getting that trophy. And that's where things get interesting for Herbert. This dude already showed us in 2021 what he can do when everything clicks. Over 5,000 passing yards, 41 total touchdowns. Those are MVP caliber numbers. The problem was, the team only won 9 games that year. But look at this roster now compared to then. The offensive line got upgraded, the running game actually exists, and the defense isn't giving up 30 points every other week. The prediction calls for 4,600 total yards and 46 total touchdowns. Now, 46 passing touchdowns? That's elite company we're talking about. Only 7 quarterbacks in NFL history have hit that mark. Manning, Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Marino, and Breeze. Not exactly scrubs on that list. But here's what makes it possible for Herbert. He's got the arm talent to match any of those guys, and for the first time in his career, he's got a supporting cast that might actually help him get there. The running game addition is huge here. When you can actually run the ball effectively, it opens up everything else. Play action becomes deadly, red zone opportunities increase, and defenses can't just pin their ears back and rush the passer every down. Greg Roman's track record speaks for itself. This guy has coordinated 7 top 3 rushing attacks in his 11 seasons as an OC. 7 out of 11. That's not luck. That's a system. But let's be real about the competition. Mahomes just won 15 games and still got the MVP. Josh Allen's putting up ridiculous numbers in Buffalo. Lamar's always in the conversation. Herbert's going to need more than just good stats. He's going to need a statement season that makes it impossible to ignore him. Now, speaking of statement seasons, there's another prediction that's absolutely bonkers, but kind of intriguing. Ladd McConkey, breaking Lance Alworth's single-season receiving record. We're talking about 1,650-plus yards here. That's a lot of football. Lance Alworth's record is legendary for a reason. 1,602 yards in 14 games back in 1965. That's 114 yards per game with a 23.2 yards per catch average. Absolutely absurd numbers. But here's what's wild about McConkey. If you look at his last 8 games from 2024, including that playoff game, he averaged 107 yards per game. Project that over a full season, and you're looking at over 1,800 yards. The kid got off to a slow start last year, didn't crack 70 yards in any of his first 6 games. But once he figured it out, man, he was unstoppable. 6 out of his last 7 games with 83-plus yards. The question isn't whether he has the talent, we've seen it. The question is, can he sustain that level of production for 17 games, and will the target share be there with all the weapons they've added? This brings me to something that really caught my attention. The prediction about a top 3 rushing attack. Now, this one might sound completely insane given where the Chargers ranked last year, but let me paint you a picture of why it's not as crazy as it sounds. The Chargers finished 17th in rushing last year. That was actually the highest they've ever been in a Herbert season. But here's the kicker. It was also the worst rushing attack Greg Roman has ever coordinated. This is a guy who's had top 3 rushing units in 7 of his 11 seasons. When I tell you that every projected starter on this offensive line grades out as above average in run blocking, I mean every single one. That's not an accident. Okay, now talk about some of the more individual predictions because they tell a story about how much this team could potentially improve. Mike Williams having a 1,000-yard season alongside McConkey, On paper, it sounds impossible with all the mouths to feed, but Williams was on pace for a monster year before that ACL injury. Chemistry with Herbert was there, the production was climbing, and then it all got derailed. The thing about Williams is that he's always been a rhythm player. When he's healthy and in sync with his quarterback, he's almost impossible to cover those contested catches. Last year was tough. A new team, coming off a major injury, dealing with Aaron Rodgers' passive-aggressive nonsense in New York. But he's back home now, back with a quarterback who actually wants to get him the ball. Here's where things get really interesting, though. The defensive predictions. Derwin James leading the team in sacks. That's not just bold. That's borderline revolutionary. But think about what happened when they moved him closer to the line of scrimmage last year. 1 sack in the first 9 games, then 4.5 in the final 8. When you project that pace over a full season, you're looking at 9 to 10 sacks from a safety. The record for a defensive back is 9.5 sacks, set by Jamal Adams. If Derwin breaks that record while playing the best football of his career, he's not just making the Pro Bowl, he's in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. And honestly, watching Derwin James get downhill and flatten running backs on his way to the quarterback might be the most entertaining thing in football. What really gets me excited about all these predictions, they're not happening in a vacuum. Every single one of them is connected to the others. Herbert wins MVP because the running game is elite, which happens because the offensive line is improved, which creates more opportunities for the receivers, which keeps the defense fresh, which allows players like Derwin to make game-changing plays. It's all connected, and that's what makes this season so special. This isn't about one player having a career year while everyone else stays the same. This is about multiple systems clicking at the same time. Now, am I saying all of these predictions will come true? Of course not. But what I am saying is that for the first time in Justin Herbert's career, the infrastructure is in place for something special to happen. The coaching staff knows what they're doing, the front office made smart moves, and the talent level across the board has been upgraded. The schedule is going to be brutal. We all know that. But great teams use tough schedules as fuel rather than excuses. If this Chargers team is really ready to make that next step, a gauntlet of good teams is exactly what they need to prove it. So here's my take. Will Herbert win MVP? Will McConkey break records? Will the rushing attack suddenly become elite? Maybe, maybe not. But what I do know is that this team has more talent, better coaching, and clearer direction than it's had in a long time. And sometimes that's all it takes for the impossible to become inevitable. The 2025 season can't get here fast enough. Whether these predictions come true or not, it's going to be one hell of a ride. And for the first time in a while, I'm genuinely excited to see just how high this team can fly. What do you think? Are these predictions completely insane, or is there something brewing in Los Angeles that we're all about to witness? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want more Chargers analysis like this, because trust me, we're just getting started.